Howdy, guys, and welcome to Big Brother 23, night number 9, and welcome to Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Okay, exciting night last night, live TV episode, and a whole lot of talk following that. First of all, let's talk a summary of what we saw last night. The first eviction of the season. Travis is gone. No huge expectation. We had 2 votes that were cast in favor of Travis to send Alyssa home. Turns out they're both hinky votes, one cast by Tiffany, one cast by Derek X. That created a little controversy throughout the evening. We'll talk about. But Travis is going home. Now, here's the interesting thing. During the interviews with Julie, he saw his goodbye messages. It appears that his game is over for good. There's not going to be a pre-jury battle back, at least not from Travis's position. This season's only 86 nights, so perhaps that shouldn't be a big surprise that we're not going to see that battle back. But wasn't sure until we saw the eviction episode last night. So Travis is gone. Now, we also had an HOH to battle out, and it was a good competition. A little technical flaw. Julie had to cut to a commercial a little early, but it involved using a giant pool cue, trying to hit a ball into the mouth of a shark on a giant pool table. And the winner of that HOH competition is Kylan, who's won HOH, and that means that also his team of Alyssa and Tiffany, Travis is already gone, but Alyssa and Tiffany are also safe this week because their teammate Kylan wins HOH. So congratulations to Kylan. He celebrated his 30th birthday. Now he's got an HOH title. It's amazing how quickly things change inside the Big Brother house. You're on the block one week, you're HOH the next. I kind of know how that goes. So anyway, Kylan's on the block. He's going to control everything going on this week as much as possible. Now, few other things to point out. We did have a have-nots. Last week, it was based on the results of the HOH competition. Doesn't appear that was the case this week. Apparently, have-nots are team aces, which is Whitney, Brent, Hannah, and Derek X. They're going to be have-nots. It seems like maybe they volunteered, and I've heard that maybe Whitney and Brent volunteered for the whole team. I'm not sure how happy Hannah was based on a conversation she had a little bit later, but that's who the have-nots are, team aces. So a lot of discussions to get in very quickly this evening. So I'm going to do my best to do just that. Let's start with the live feeds. Live feeds came on, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes after the West Coast broadcast had ended. They come back on. We see Tiffany kind of laying in Oz's lap, crying to her, seeming pretty upset. I've heard it was because she was missing her son. I've heard that it maybe was something involving Frenchie that we didn't get to see because the feeds weren't on. I've also heard, I think Tiffany actually said at one point that maybe I was exaggerating my crying a little bit just to get some time with Ozzy. Not sure exactly what was going on at that point in time, but we get back and they're talking to each other. And here's the thing. Tiffany was pretty quiet last week. She's a very observant person, paying attention, kind of quiet. I don't know that's going to be the case this week based on the amount of conversations she was having this evening. She's part of Team Queens. She is safe from eviction this week, unless something weird happens. She is safe from eviction, and so she's letting her voice be heard, and that voice very much is pointing a finger at Brent and Frenchie, it appears. So those two better be careful because Tiffany's got them in her sights based on this evening. We have a conversation in the bathroom. Kylan is talking to the cameras, and he says he's considering 3 targets. Derek X, which is kind of tough. Derek X just pulled him off the block last week, but he's looking at Derek X, he's looking at Brittany, and he's looking at, we don't know. Because at that point, Claire walks in the bathroom, so we never hear the third name mentioned. But later, Kylan mentions that he doesn't want to go after Slaughterhouse Alliance members. He doesn't want to go after the Cookout Alliance members. And he did promise Sarah Beth. Sarah Beth and Kylan are working pretty tight this week. And I'm not surprised at that at all. But he has promised Sarah Beth that she's not going on the block. So who does that leave once you take those alliances out and Sarah Beth? Well, it leaves Hannah maybe. But at the same time, I'm also not going to be surprised if by the time nominations roll around later today, if we may not still see a Slaughterhouse member on the block, or perhaps as a veto replacement on down the road. But so much of it also depends on the wild card competition that should be taking place this morning, I believe. Don't put it past Kylan to potentially put Frenchie on the block. Now, yes, they're in an alliance together. They're part of the Butchers and all that, but there's a lot of game to be played. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. It really comes down to this. How loyal is Kylan to that big alliance? Is he really going to keep that in mind when he's making his pick, or is it going to be much more focused on some of what the other people in the house, such as Sarah Beth, want? We'll find out. We'll see. Brent and Xavier are talking about Frenchie. They're worried about Frenchie's gameplay. They say he's too transparent. The information he gives out and everything he does, it's difficult. It's messy. They're reconsidering their alliance with him. We're going to see a lot of that this week. Frenchie's got alliances with everyone in the house, it seems like, and I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be walking back some of those alliances and distancing themselves a little bit more as they wait and see what Kylan does and what Frenchie's position is in the house. We have Kylan and Sarah Beth planning this week again. It looks like they're working very closely together. Now, Sarah has suggested that her, Kylan, Claire, Derek X, and Tiffany work together this week. All non-Slaughterhouse Alliance members, except for Kylan. So basically, Sarah Beth saying, grab all these other people. Let's work together. We can make something happen this week. Brittany. Now, Brittany's a little bit worried. Brittany is talking to Azza, and she's worried that she might be a target alongside Frenchie. And she might be right. We've already heard her name mentioned by Kylan. I think it's a possibility. She is worried that she's going to be targeted because of Frenchie's French Kiss Girls Alliance. But Azza is saying, yeah, Frenchie formed that thing. You shouldn't be held responsible. You're not the one that came up with that idea. I think you're good. Just lay low. Don't panic. And she's thinking also, Azza is thinking that Tiffany and Claire are on Kylan's team and that Kylan's going to listen to them, that they should hold a lot of sway, and that as a result, Tiffany and Claire should be able to help protect Brittany and Azza both. Maybe. That's a good point. We'll see what happens with it. Tiffany is talking to the camera, and she's saying that she cast a hinky vote because Frenchie asked her to. I didn't know that. I haven't missed that, but she's saying that Frenchie's the one that asked her to cast that hinky vote. Very interesting. There's a lot of talk this week or last night about who cast those votes. People worry so much about those hinky votes. I don't think it's as big as a deal, but Alyssa, obviously, she wants to know who the two people are that voted to send her home. Derek X is saying that he thinks someone was trying to set up him and Hannah with those hinky votes, and it's kind of true. Later, Frenchie is telling Tiffany that Alyssa and everyone else wants to know who cast those hinky votes, but Frenchie's saying, I'm not gonna expose you, Tiffany. I'm gonna keep it quiet. I'm not gonna tell anyone who cast those votes. Is he gonna hold this information over Tiffany? Is he using this as leverage if he doesn't feel like she's playing ball? Could be. This is all new news to me, so I'm curious to see how that works out. Christian has told Alyssa about not just the Slaughterhouse, the group of 8, but also about the inner group, the Butchers. That may be, and it's mentioned that Alyssa may be the first non-Butcher to hear about that group. Christian's very trusting giving this information out to Alyssa. Loose lips sink ships. Now that Alyssa has this information, very valuable information that she just ought to put in her pocket and hold on to and use at the right time. But if nothing else, it's going to help Alyssa, now that she knows about this Butcher group, it's going to help her kind of analyze and determine and figure out maybe who's working with who can be trusted, who can't be trusted. And remember, Alyssa and Christian, they're working closely together. So it's, and Alyssa's kind of working with a lot of people outside of the Slaughterhouse group, I think, as well. So we'll see what happens with that very valuable bit of information that Christian let slip. We got to see Kylan's HOH and hear his letter being read. He couldn't read it himself, a little too broken up, too emotional. But we got to see all that. I'm glad this season we're getting to see the HOH reveals. We didn't see it last season. I'm glad they're back to letting us see as part of the live feeds. Tiffany, another conversation. Tiffany is telling Sarah Beth and Claire that Frenchie and Brent are way too close, and she's worried that Kylan's going to listen to Frenchie way too much this week. I tell you, Tiffany's been paying attention. She knows what's going on. She's worried that Frenchie and Kylan are in an alliance. Yeah, they are, the Butchers. She's thinking that it's probably the guys and Alyssa because Tiffany feels Alyssa was just too calm on the block when it came to eviction, unless she knew that she'd been offered protection And so Tiffany suspects that Alyssa's a lot tighter with the guys than maybe she otherwise would have suspected. Again, Tiffany's paying attention. Christian is telling Kylan not to pick a target until after the wild card competition. Yes. Christian's got it figured out. Don't start throwing a lot of names. Now, you can identify targets that you think you want to use. You've got to be thinking ahead, but don't be telling other people what the targets are going to be when you don't even know what the results of some of these other competitions, such as wildcard, are going to be. Hold it close to the vest. Wait until right before nomination time when you know who's available, and then you finalize your picks. And otherwise, if you start throwing out names, you're going to have just as we saw with Frenchie, all of a sudden a lot of people that look at you as a suspect, enemy, threat, etc. So now Christian has absolutely the right idea for Kylan with that. Let's see. We've got lots of people making a trip, making their pilgrimage to the HOH room to make their pitches. Kylan's doing a good job. Kylan is telling everyone, saying, look, I want to hear what you have to say, but I'm not making any promises of safety to anyone. I'm not saying a whole lot. Just let's talk. Let's figure out what's going on. I'll let you know when it comes time to nominations. That's the way you play in HOH. Hannah and Azza are talking about alliances. Hannah is certain that Whitney, Frenchie, and Brent are all working together. Here's the key point on that conversation. These alliances, at this point in time, it's only been a week, but at this point in time, these alliances aren't nearly as secret as some people think they are. They're all getting exposed. They'll continue to get more and more exposed. Whether someone says something or not, you're in that house. You see who's interacting with each other, who's talking to each other, and it's starting to become obvious. Not all the alliances, but a lot of the alliances may be getting exposed here during this next week. Kylan has asked Tiffany and Claire if they can just keep an eye on people as they leave the HOH room after their one-on-ones with Kylan. He's saying, can y'all watch them? Let me know who they go and talk to afterwards. Kylan spent several mentions where he said he really wants to see where people go after they talk to him. I think that's pretty smart, to see who they immediately go and share information with. So he's asked them to do that. That tells me that he's got a lot of trust in Tiffany and Claire, and probably be working with them quite a bit this week as well, if he trusts them and asks them to do something like that for him. We've got Tiffany telling Kylan that he has her, Claire, Sarah Beth, and that Derek X really has no one, that it'll be easy to reel in Derek X as part of group, and that obviously he can get Azza and Xavier as well. So we're seeing a lot of people. We heard this from Sarah Beth. We heard, now we got Tiffany saying the same thing. We see these people trying to pull together a group that's not the slaughterhouse to work with Kylan and maybe go after different targets this week. She's warning Kylan. She's saying, you know who was running the house last week, i.e. Frenchie and Brent. And she tells Kylan, says, look, I know Frenchie wants to bring you in and give you all kinds of hints about how to be an HOH and all that. Whatever he tells you, do the opposite. Don't listen to Frenchie. Do whatever he says not to do, Kylan, and you'll be much better off with regards to HOH. All right, I hear you. Later, Claire and Tiffany are talking. They're using chess pieces to figure out who all Frenchie is aligned with. I hope they got a whole lot of chess pieces if they're going to have that little conversation. But again, they're recognizing that Frenchie, because of his power as HOH the first week, is kind of a linchpin in a lot of different relationships and alliances. Now, it remains to be seen, those relationships and alliances, which ones proved to be solid this week and which ones were just kind of fluff because he happened to be HOH. I think we'll see a little bit of both. We'll start seeing, now that we have this transition in power, we're going to start seeing where true loyalties are and true relationships versus people just kissing up to try to preserve themselves and recognize who has the power. This will be a very telling week as the house continues to fall out along different lines and different alliances. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, final thing before we shut this thing down. Wild card competition should be this morning. I think it's a new competition, but should be this morning. Now, Julie gave us a little tease. She said if you win wild card and you want safety, you're going to have to switch teams. All right, I'm ready for that. That heck of a twist. I'm ready to see what happens with that. We have heard that Frenchie wants to play. It looks like he's going to be able to play for Team Jokers. The other two teams that are going to be competing, sounds like they're going to be be using random draws to figure out which teammate's going to actually compete in the wild card competition. Interesting idea or interesting thought. If you ask to play in this competition, is that telling Kylan that you don't feel safe, that maybe you don't trust him and the decisions he's going to make? By going to random draw, are you somehow demonstrating to Kylan that you trust him, that you feel safe, that it doesn't matter to me if I compete or not, because I feel so safe with you, Kylan? I don't know. Just one more little point that you have to consider with this new wild card competition that we've got this season. So there you go, guys. We're going to shut it down. A lot of conversations, but hopefully I wrapped it up as best I could overnight. I expect after the nominations this evening, it's going to be another busy Friday night as well. I will see y'all tomorrow morning. We'll talk about what happened overnight. Until then, y'all have a fantastic Friday. Here comes the weekend, my friends. SKD 143. Y'all have a great one. Cheers. Bye.